Hi guys, my name is Christine, and today I'm talking about what if this pain is a gift. So there's a quote that I really like that was said by Steve Jobs, and he said something like, "You can only connect the dots looking back." And this was something that he said in his Stanford address. You can look it up you can look it up on Google. You can look it up on YouTube. So if you just type in Steve Jobs Stanford address, you should be able to find it. And basically, what he means by this is that sometimes when you're doing things and when you're going through certain experiences, even if the experiences don't make sense, even if the experiences are painful, at the time they may not make sense to you. But when you're older, when you've had more time, but looking back, they're going to make a lot more sense. And you're going to see that actually maybe all of these things were divinely orchestrated to your benefit. And I've definitely had some experiences like that myself, where it seems like I'm going through a lot of pain, there's a lot of horrible things happening, but later on down the road, whether that be a few months, sometimes a few weeks, or even a few years that go by, I look back and I realize that it was exactly what was meant to happen at that particular time, because that's what led me to different things, right? It led me to, could be a book, it could be a book, or it could be an experience that was really pivotal for my personal development, personal growth. So what you got to realize is that when you're going through a tough situation, even if it doesn't make sense, maybe at some point it will make sense, and maybe even if it sucks right now, eventually down the road it will make more sense to you and it was for a greater benefit. And basically that's how you've got to see those kinds of circumstances. Even if you feel like it's never going to make sense, sometimes it's still good to believe that you can only connect the dots looking back. Because if you're going through a really tough experience, that may be the only thing that's going to get you through it, right? So for your own sanity's sake, basically, if you're going through a really tough situation, it might be best just to believe it, just to believe it blindly that one day this pain will make sense, right? So that's something to consider, something to think about. Now, there's a book that I really like. It was Dr. Wayne Dyer's last book, at least the last book that he released while he was alive. There are some stuff that's came out posthumously since after his passing. But the last book he published while he was still alive was a book called I Can See Clearly Now, which is basically like a biography. And basically he writes in there the different like big parts of his life, like the big pivotal moments of his life. Some of them are like inspirational, some of them are difficult. And basically what he lines out in that book is that, you know, how these experiences led him to be the public speaker that he was, to be the author that he was, to be the kind of father that he was, and to be what he ultimately ended up being, which was like a spiritual teacher, right? That's kind of like where his sort of life progressed. He went from kind of very much looking at it on a very personal development, self-help side, and then slowly he gradually started talking more about the spiritual side and stuff like that. So you can see how basically throughout his life, how he lines out how he managed to do that. So I really recommend that book if you're interested in that. It's actually a really easy read. It's not really that complex. It doesn't read like like a regular sort of like autobiography. There's like it's really sectioned out quite nicely. So you don't have to. You could just read like a bit of it, right, for a bit, because it's there's not like really big, long, solid chapters, and it's very nicely outlined. So I highly recommend that if you're interested, obviously. So another point that I want to make is you might not be able to heal a physical pain, right? Because sometimes people have like chronic pains and things like that. But you can heal emotional wounds, right? Because, you know, obviously if you're going through a lot of physical pain right now, then there's not really much I can say that could probably help you. But when it comes to emotional wounds, those are things that you can definitely help. Those are things that you can definitely improve upon, right? So I have a tale, right? A tale of two sisters, right? And this is going to describe basically what I mean by you can heal emotional wounds. So there were once two sisters, right? And they grew up in the same household, right? There was a bit of an age gap between them. One was a little bit older, one was a little bit younger. And basically they lived with a alcoholic father, right? The father was an alcoholic, very unpredictable behavior, outbursts of anger, things like that. Quite a scary environment for a child to grow up in, right? Now, one of these sisters vowed that when she grew up, she would never let her children experience the things that she experienced as a child, right? The other sister did the opposite, and she also became an alcoholic and was very much into hedonism and things, just like her father, right? So then you got to realize then, okay, so what's the difference there? These two kids were brought up in the same environment, same set of circumstances, yet one chose to grow from it and learn from it, and one became the embodiment of it and took it on, right, and became that herself. So therefore, it's not the situation, right? It's not the situation that you're put in. It's not the pain that you're going through. It's how you learn from it and how you deal with it, right? That determines your future, right? So you can choose. You can choose to not let this affect you, or to grow from it, or to learn from it. Or you can put your hands up and say, well, I've had this pain. I'm just going to be this way for the rest of my life. I'm not going to change. You can decide that. And people make those kinds of decisions all the time, right? So that's the tale of two sisters. And I want you to reflect on that and think, okay, so I'm going through this difficult time. I'm going through this harsh time. Now, am I going to grow from it and become a better person because of it? Or am I going to let it consume me, right? Now, hopefully you will do the former, like one of the sisters did, right? Now, that tale of two sisters is a true story. It's not a fable, right? Though I know those two sisters very, very personally, okay? So that's the choice that you have, right, about this pain. You can grow from it and learn from it, or you can let it essentially just ruin everything for you and ruin your circumstances, right? Even, obviously it depends on the pain. It might be a big pain. It might be something that you've suffered through for a long time. Or it might be just something small, right? Maybe something like a breakup. Or maybe it's something bigger, like you had these traumas or whatever it was as a child, right? You have the choice, right? You have the choice to choose. And that choice is always available to you. Now, maybe the easier choice sometimes is to let it take you over, right? Sometimes maybe that is the easier choice. Maybe the more difficult choice is to try and learn and grow from it. But I'm sure if you're watching a video like this one, you can overcome that and you will find that strength. So what you've got to see then is that maybe this pain that you're going through, whatever it is a gift. Maybe it's something that's going to help you grow. Maybe it's something that's going to help you learn something about yourself. Even if it's something like, okay, it might be something as simple as, this is what I don't want, right? It may be something as simple as that. But when you know that, and you know that's not what you don't want, right? Then you can figure out what you do want and start aiming towards that. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to get in touch with me personally and you'd like coaching with me, then please go to www.christineloveridge.com and I shall talk to you again very soon. Goodbye.